Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. So there's been a lot of talk about Eddie Reynoso. And this is the thing, right? Eddie Reynoso is a great trainer. He's a phenomenal trainer. Let me move this out the way. But, it's a little annoying for me to sit back and see how, these people on the internet, man, I'm all about a good joke. I'm all about that. I like to laugh. It's not much I don't find funny. I find humor in everything. Probably in some of the subjects that some people would find like really offensive. Yeah, I find humor in everything. But I just think it's corny when people, especially in our boxing community, decide that they want to come now and attack Eddie Reynoso and saying that he sucks as a trainer because Oscar Valdez lost to Shakur Stevenson. And that's really, for me, it's really annoying because Eddie Reynoso is a phenomenal trainer. Phenomenal trainer, okay? Look at Canelo Alvarez. Eddie and his dad had everything to do with Canelo Alvarez. But I don't think people really know, because see, Eddie Reynoso is like, you see him more than you see Al Heyman. But kind of like Al Heyman, he doesn't really talk much. If he gets pressed by the media, he'll talk, but he's not a guy who likes to talk a whole lot. But he's just all about boxing. Like they say in the Canelo camp, no boxing, no life, or boxing is life. And and they live that way. And that is what's helped him to win, the Trainer of the Year award, Canelo to win Boxer of the Year award, for Canelo to move up and down these different weight divisions, and win all these different titles and all these accolades. And I'll go ahead and say it. There's so much stuff I say in a video I could split into like 10 videos, but it's like Roger Mayweather. Now, he was vocal, but about the point that I'm about to make right now is Eddie Reynoso is probably going to be more known for being a one fighter trainer, like Roger Mayweather and Floyd, and then like Eddie Reynoso and Canelo. But there's some things you guys need to know about Eddie Reynoso. But before I get into that, Eddie Reynoso, as far as who has he been known to train? And that's what a lot of people, I think they don't realize. He doesn't have many people over there in his stable. And there's a reason for that. Okay? It's a reason for that. It's because they're super, super serious. That's why. They don't play around over there. So if guys want to come over there and train, it's long, arduous hours. It takes a lot of discipline. But let's get to the point that I want to make here about Eddie Reynoso. It annoys me when people make fun of him because this man, just like Hugues, Lara, most of the Cuban fighters, and a lot of the guys who are first generation born in this country, parents were immigrants. Not all, of course, but I'm just saying there's a lot of them. The parents came over here illegally. Okay? Now, these are parents coming over here illegally and finding a way, going through hell, but somehow things work out and everything's good. But Eddie Reynoso, if you didn't know, this guy came over here to the country illegally, man. And he was a young guy when he did that. He was like 19 years old. And all that man had on was some jeans, a t-shirt, no money, no food, no water, and a dream. And, he was looking for a new beginning. And all he wanted to do was come to the States and become the world's best trainer. And the things that he had to deal with, that's a horrible trek that people have to make trying to get from Mexico to the United States. So many people died on that trek. whether die of thirst, fatigue, dehydration, getting attacked by wildlife, different things happening with Homeland Security. It's a lot of shit that happens with Homeland Security. But at the end of the day, this guy went through a lot to get over there, to get here to the States. And then he got over here. He was deported once. Next time he came, he got detained. And he was moved through multiple detainment facilities, laying down on concrete with a blanket. The cells are packed, staring up at the ceiling, thinking about what is he going to do? How is he going to get through this? And he refused to break. And you look at him now, 44 years old, about probably 45, self-made millionaire. And there were just those nights when that guy was in those cells, he just had a dream, man. And he had to stay focused because those tests that he went through are serious. And I think sometimes, it's easy to sit back and say and question all different people trying to come into the country illegally, whether it's through, sneaking in through a fence or whatever. Shit, half the people coming to the country illegally come in on a damn airplane, come right into the biggest airports, and it's overstayed a visa, and then that's it. So that's the joke about a lot of this crap. But anyway, but he ended up staying in the States, was working with his dad in a butcher shop, making like $15 an hour. I think he was getting like $100 a week. And then he had an opportunity, I think around 2002, to go and join his dad back in Guadalajara. Yeah, went back to Guadalajara to train Oscar Chololo Larios, who went on to become a WBC junior featherweight and featherweight titleist. And that launched the Reynosos, in particular EDDY, who came across, Canelo Alvarez, and things changed once they got a young Canelo Alvarez in their camp. So Eddie Reynoso is a guy who can kind of be an easy target because he's another one of those who, like Shakur Stevenson, he looks simple, but there's nothing simple about Shakur Stevenson as a fighter. Eddie Reynoso looks simple as a trainer, but there's nothing simple about him as a trainer. And he wanted to become a professional fighter at age 12, but it's just not what worked out for him. He realized his strength was in training. So you come now to Eddie Reynoso, and you look at the guys he's had underneath his tutelage. Canelo, he's had Canelo the longest, and look at the end product that he put out. He's had, Oscar Valdez. You got Frank Sanchez over there. You had Ryan Garcia. I said Andy Ruiz. And I don't know if there's anybody who else he's had over there with him. But let's just stick with those names for now. Andy Ruiz, Oscar Valdez, Frank Sanchez, what's his name, man? Ryan Garcia and Canelo. He's had Canelo since Canelo was 12, 13 years old. Look at what he's done with Canelo. Okay, so a lot of these bandwagonist type fighters, they see what he's doing, and they figure he can turn me into a Canelo. I'm not saying that's the case with Oscar Valdez, right? But as fans, especially the ignorant fans, they watched a guy like Oscar Valdez and see that he's now on the team of Eddie Reynoso, and they're expecting for Reynoso to put out the same product that he has in Canelo. It's impossible to do that. He may throw some similar combinations. He may do some things that resemble Canelo because you're the same trainer now, and they're working on similar techniques. But Reynoso hasn't had these guys since they were 12 years old. So these guys will never be able to imitate what Canelo does. Don't get me wrong. A guy like Oscar Valdez is a very talented fighter. But you gotta want to put the work in. But it doesn't matter how much work you put in. Sometimes they have fighters who are just better than you. And a guy like Shakur Stevenson, there's nothing that Eddie Reynoso could have done to help Valdez win that fight. He was telling Valdez, don't twist your wrists, don't slam your gloves together, don't stand in front of Shakur Stevenson. Trainers tell their fighters, most trainers, unless we're talking about Teofimo Lopez's dad, but most trainers tell their fighters the right things to do. But sometimes they're unable to execute it because of what's coming back at them. I mean, they're the ones in the ring. Everyone else on the outside watching. It's easy to say, why didn't he throw that uppercut? Why didn't he do this? Why is he doing that? Man, that's and most people who don't understand it, they never even sparred. Forget fighting like in a no kidding amateur bout or professional bout. They've never even sparred. If you've sparred, I'm not talking about just one time, depending on the sparring session, is enough for you to understand it's totally different when you're inside that ring. And I think most of the people who make these comments, like watching Valdez and not understanding how come he wasn't doing what Reynoso was asking him, they've never been in the ring and felt a little bit of stress. When that ring gets small real quick because of what's in there with you. And I think as a result, people are unfairly saying that Eddie Reynoso sucks as a trainer. That's madness. No. So before I say this, I'm going to go ahead and say it because I'll forget what the hell I'm saying. With Eddie Reynoso, I think definitely he's going to be receive more praise for what he's done with Canelo, because he's had Canelo from a little kid, and just how Canelo is performing. The stuff Canelo does in that ring is amazing. There's no other fighter out there that thinks like Canelo, that throws combinations like Canelo, and is able to execute the game plan like Canelo. No other fighter. But if you watch when Canelo got into that scuffle with Caleb Plant on stage, and Canelo shoved him, and Caleb Plant swung at him, just instinctively, cat-like reflexes. Canelo took that step back, he rolled with the punch, and came back with that uppercut right hand combination. He throws that in the fights. You know why he was able to do that so quickly? Because that's called training, muscle memory, repetition. So we're looking at Frank Sanchez. He's disciplined. He's in the camp. And I think we're going to see continue to see great things from Frank Sanchez because he has the discipline and he has patience. And he is a fantastic boxer before Eddie Reynoso got him. But they're working on a lot of different things. Sometimes I think Frank Sanchez doesn't let his hands go enough because I know he wants to let his hands go more. But it seems like he's worked on being disciplined, picking his spots, because they know he has speed, they know he has power. But they don't want him to get reckless and get caught in an exchange. Andy Ruiz. So the big thing with Frank Sanchez, he has discipline, he's responsible. Andy Ruiz, no discipline. Andy Ruiz had those two fights with AJ. That denatured his discipline, his killer instinct, and his will to find a way to win. Andy Ruiz is not the same fighter. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. I was watching Andy Ruiz when he didn't have, no facial hair. His hair was cut super low, and he was just this big, fat guy who got in the ring, like slob of a man is what I saw, until he let his hands go. And I was like, who is this guy? I'm talking, man, when he first started fighting, when nobody else was talking about him. And my wife told me like 11 years ago that I should do a boxing channel. And maybe a little bit longer than that, But it's right when YouTube really started popping. She was like, yo, all you do, back before I retired, she was like, all you do is work, go to the gym and watch boxing. She's like, that's all you do. Like, that's your job, is just watching boxing. And I just didn't have the time because, I was having kids and stuff. But I remember watching Andy Ruiz, and I was like, this guy is a killer. And look at what he did. I was not surprised at what he did in that fight with AJ. I was telling people he's going to win. Now, what I was surprised at what he did after that fight, but I understand it's a lot of money he came into. Things change. Your friends, different people around you. I get it. You never had it. Now you have it. Enjoy it. But his discipline went out the window. And you can't, and he just, I guess he expected they get a third fight. Man, excuse me. Anthony Joshua would want no parts of Andy Ruiz again. Because even in that second fight, there was a little moment where Ruiz let those hands go and AJ didn't want no part of that. So there's no way in the world Eddie Hearn was going to let a third fight happen. Okay? So look at Andy Ruiz now. Kind of in the win. You know? And that's not going to work with a guy like Eddie Reynoso, who's super disciplined, who know what the struggle is, who's in this country, very thankful for everything this country has given him. And he's not going to take on a fighter who's not going to have the discipline and do things his way. And he shouldn't, because if they're not listening to what he says and what he wants in that gym, they need to go. And he needs to run them out of there. So Frank Sanchez looks like a good fit for Reynoso and Reynoso's way, because he's very structured and regimented, and Frank Sanchez is disciplined and responsible. Andy Ruiz, who knows what's going on with him now. Ryan Garcia, well, we all know the story with him. He's a star, okay? He's a star. He's a fantastic boxer, huge profile, huge platforms, right? You got to give credit where credit's due. It doesn't matter if you think he's corny or whatever you think about him. Got to give credit where credit's due. Ryan Garcia is a bad boy, but Ryan Garcia, he's not Canelo, and I think when he's there talking about competing with Canelo and Eddie Reynoso and prioritizing Canelo over him, what do you think's gonna happen, clown? Eddie Reynoso supposed to put Canelo on the back burner to Ryan Garcia? Come on now. So now Ryan Garcia has moved to another trainer who I just think is gonna get him killed. I like Joe Goosen, but you got Ryan Garcia in that fight, the whole fight standing with his chin high up in the air, and you didn't correct that? Ryan Garcia is gonna be the next Amir Khan. So Ryan Garcia is out of there. No discipline. Thinks he's bigger than what he is. Inconsistent. And just too immature, I think. I just think he's a little too comic bookish for Eddie Reynoso. He don't have time for all the games and the tomfoolery and teenage garbage. Even though Ryan Garcia's in his 20s, he still act like a little teenager, man. So high schoolish. Eddie Reynoso, that's not a good fit for Eddie Reynoso. Then you look at Oscar Valdez, good fit. Disciplined, works hard, wants to win. He just got in there with somebody who was better. And nobody beat Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson needs to go up to fight 147, 154. The only way he's going to lose is if he gets in there with a big guy who can get busy like him, like a Jaron Ennis. You know, those kind of guys. But right now, 130, 135, 140, good fights for Shakur Stevenson at those weights, but at 130, 135, you got to kind of favor Shakur Stevenson. But coming back to Eddie Reynoso and Oscar Valdez losing to Shakur Stevenson had nothing to do with Eddie Reynoso being a horrible trainer. People need to stop saying that. You know, when he's in there and Canelo's winning, you want to laud him. You want to praise him. You come in there with Valdez, and he pushed for the fight. People need to understand. Eddie Reynoso that went to Top Rank and said, we want to fight. Because it's things he sees in his training camp that gave him the confidence that the right game plan, they could beat Shakur Stevenson. And the thing is this. Valdez lost his right to complain because he didn't let his hands go enough. He didn't close the distance. He didn't push Stevenson back on the ropes. It's because of what Steven was doing. It's very simple. Keeping that arm out there, that left arm straight, rangefinder, tapping him, jabbing him, uppercut, putting it in his face, holding it. He had him thinking the whole fight. By Stevenson, he wasn't doing nothing. But I'm gonna say just by keeping that stiff arm out in front of him, that was him doing nothing. But it created a whole lot of activity on the mind of Valdez because he was always thinking. And then Stevenson's hands are so quick, Valdez was getting hit with stuff that he couldn't even react to. So again, Eddie Reynoso is a badass trainer, man. He's outstanding. Let's not come down and ridicule him based on what Oscar Valdez not winning. I don't see anybody beating Shakur Stevenson. So what are we gonna say? All the trainers suck now? But at the end of the day, Eddie Reynoso, to me, for the most part, is a one-fighter trainer, and he's trying to take on and help other people. But don't be surprised if the next couple of years if Eddie Reynoso just drops all of his fighters and just focus solely on Canelo, because he doesn't have time and patience for BS. He's used to Canelo, used to Canelo's ways, used to Canelo responding to him as he wants. He's not used to going back and forth and playing games and not knowing what fighters are and having to call and all that and track them down. He's not doing that. He and Canelo have like a brotherly relationship, a father-son, uncle-nephew relationship. And at the end of the day, if guys don't act right, he's cool with cutting ties with them, because one thing he's not going to do, he's not putting anybody above Canelo. Period. So that being said, now hopefully you understand Eddie Reynoso a little bit better. That man, these guys who are coming over here and trying to contribute to society and not just come over here and, make bad choices, which it's hard when you don't have anything. And I understand how things happen. I really do. I'm not trying to get into no back and forth on politics with nobody. I will not respond to that nonsense. But he made his way over here, got through the struggles, got through the detainment facilities, and look at what he's doing now. And I think it's outstanding. But that being said, Eddie Reynoso's all right. In my book, he's pretty much a one-fighter trainer, but he's a great trainer. So let's give a man his credit, not just slam him. And not slam Valdez. He did the best he could, but we need to praise them for their efforts. But at the end of the day, Shakur Stevenson, you take Floyd Mayweather, and you take Money May and Pretty Boy, and you get Shakur Stevenson. Simple. He's going to be around for a long time whipping everybody's ass. But like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Shout out to all the veterans. Y'all keep safe. I appreciate the support. And I'm in the brief.